MJ, welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to have you join us. And I love your topic because people are wondering whether or not to buy a home right now. And I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me today. This is MJ Agostini with Remax Right Choice. And 2023 is a great time to buy a house. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why. Number one, interest rates are still historically low, if you would agree with me. I know a lot of folks are upset because they didn't buy when the rates were 2 and 3%. My cat is crying. Stop it, Mango. I'm sorry, Aaron. Hopefully you can cut that out. Interest rates are still at a historic low point. There are some buyers that are.
So let's take that again, because I wouldn't call it a low point, but they're in the normal range. So let's talk about Aaron, we're gonna riff on this a little bit. So let's say 5 reasons. So reason number 1 is interest rates, and then let's go back and forth. Okay.
Okay.
Start again from interest rates are
okay. So 2023 is really a great time to buy, and I'm going to give you 5 reasons why it's a great time to buy. Number 1, we're going to talk about interest rates, how they are still at low values in comparison to interest rates historically. We're going to talk about how rents have gone up consistently, and they're becoming less and less affordable. We're going to talk about the tax deductions that you can take advantage of as a homeowner. We're also going to segue into demand. Demand will still continue throughout the next couple of years. People in our age bracket in the 50s and 60s have had a lot of kids, and all their kids are getting married and having kids. And so demand is still going to be there, and it still has outpaced supply. And then finally, talking about real estate as an investment as well as a retirement strategy. So we'll start with interest rates.
Sure. So interest rates today are what I would consider normal. What do I mean by that? We saw interest rates in the 2s and 3s. That was unusually low. Just 6 months ago, they were 7.25, which was high, especially relative to where they were. But you and I remember when rates were in the 10s and 12s. So 6% does not feel oppressive.
No, not at all. I bought my first house in 1986 and my interest rate was 11%. So.
Yeah. And you were able to refinance.
Yeah, there's always opportunities to refinance down the road. And there's also opportunities to look at different loan products. As you know, Dave, you could look at the 10-year adjustable. There's a 5-year adjustable. There's all types of different products. You do not have to take a 30-year fixed mortgage. As a matter of fact, most people are not going to stay in their houses 30 years. So taking one of these shorter term products or shorter limit products, it may be advantageous especially for first-time home buyers.
And if you think about it, interest rates today, it sets a ceiling for your housing, because depending on what happens next, you may 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, have the opportunity to refinance. And so getting into the market, locking in your real estate costs, locking in your mortgage, you're not going to refinance to take a higher rate. You'll only refinance when there are opportunities. So I love that. What else?
Yeah, absolutely. Rents are increasing. As we can see, builders and developers are putting up apartments left and right because they see such a demand, even not only now, but in the future. Folks are getting into rents at really peak prices. They're having less opportunity to save money for down payment. Sometimes they can't have their pets in their apartment, though sometimes the landlord prohibits pets. And, why would you want to pay the landlord's mortgage, right? You want to be paying your own mortgage. So, renting maybe for a short time period. Actually, I suggest first-time buyers go live in their parents' basements. There's nothing wrong with living in the basement for 6 months to a year, because think about all the money that you can save by doing something like that. And it'll probably be the only time in your life that you could go back and hang out at your parents' house, rent free. You get your laundry done, you get your meals cooked. It really, really is a great deal. And you can certainly bank a lot of money to help for your new purchase.
And I think the other side of that is, unlike when you buy a home, and as we said a minute ago, you're locking in your costs, because once you own your home and you lock in the mortgage, yes, your taxes may go up year to year, some of your other expenses, but you're pretty much fixing your costs. When you rent, what we find is that rentals go up every year. And if you're in a particularly desirable market, my son rented an apartment, and then a year later, they wanted to jack him up like 30%. So unlike when you own a home, when you rent, you're always subject to the market. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very stable, owning your own home. Number three, tax deductions. Hey, when you go to purchase, we know they've ripped apart the tax code so many times, and they've taken out so many deductions for middle America. There are still some benefits for homeowners when you purchase your own home. Number one, you've got the mortgage interest. Number two, you've got the real estate taxes, and I know there's a ceiling of 10,000, and I know in communities like yours in New York and mine in Connecticut and the New Jersey folks, I know 10,000 may not cover your taxes. Your taxes are probably a little bit higher, but it's a good chunk toward your taxes, and it's a nice deduction. And finally, some of your closing costs, in the year that you purchase, some of your closing costs can be deducted. So there are definitely, those tax advantages are still there, although they've been whittled down a bit, but they're still there, and why not take advantage of them?
Love it.
And then I think demand is going to continue for housing. I see no slow up. I'm not sure about you, but our kids are getting married, and they're having babies, and they're looking for housing, and that is just not going to stop. And there's a lot of them out there. The baby boomers are starting to retire, but yet they're not moving from their homes. They're comfortable. They're aging in place. There's not a lot of opportunities for them to buy other properties. So therefore, there's not a lot of product on the market. And as you know, the developers and the builders stopped building between the housing crisis in 2008 until about 2018. So that's 10 years of very, very low production of new housing stock. So we've got all these kids, Zoomers, I think they're called now, Generation Z, that want to buy, and there's no end in sight to them. So I think the demand will continue, and as long as demand outpaces supply, prices are going to stay the same. You're not going to see these great increases. I think we've leveled off, but I think over time we're still going to see the normal 3-4% appreciation per year, as we did going back to World War II.
And there's really a couple of things I'd like to say about that. For one thing, let's say you buy a stock, you invest $50,000 in the stock market. And the stock market, God willing, will start getting better. We'll see. Let's say the market will go up by 10%. So your $50,000 investment will give you a $5,000 profit in the next year. If you buy a $500,000 home and you put down $50,000 and the house appreciates by 5%, you're getting a 50% return, because that 5% appreciation on a $500,000 house, well, that's $25,000. If your down payment was $50,000, you're now getting a 25%. It's the power of leverage. And, I agree with you entirely. I would not try to predict what the home value will be in southeastern Connecticut in 2025. But what we know is that over any 10-year period, we've seen huge appreciation. And so there's every reason to believe that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that house that you're buying in 2023 will be much more valuable. And again, with that leverage, you may achieve huge gains.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just had a client, not just recently, but the end of 2020 into 2021, he very savvy, retired Navy dentist. And he looked at the stock market and he's like, I don't like anything I see about this. And so he took 400,000 at that time out and bought a second home, a beach home in our community. And a year and a half later, it's worth 600,000. So he was spot on. He knew that for his age, and he's like, I need to shelter some more money. And he did just that, and he did very well. I saw him at the post office the other day, and he's like thrilled that he did that when he did it. So
yeah. And that's one of the great things about so many of our clients, because we get to see them, we get to talk to them. And that nervous home buyer, a year from now, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, they're sitting there all smiles because now they're homeowners.
absolutely, absolutely. They just sometimes need a little hand holding, no matter what their age is. They don't do this often, maybe 2, 3 times in their lifetime. So, a little hand holding, and just information. Obviously, information is so powerful for people, and it helps them, make their decisions. And the last point about buying a house in 2023 is for retirement or investment strategies. It's not too young, and no age is too young to start thinking about your retirement, right? We're cresting, we're close, but we're not there yet. If I had known more about real estate as a younger person, I would have bought more property, and I would have kept more property, and then you would have even a little bit better retirement than maybe what you have right now. But it's such a powerful tool. You buy a piece of property, you pay it all down, and it's a great asset for you to sell when you're ready to retire and move to Florida or North Carolina or out west or St. Martin. I just had a client move to St. Martin, and so
Will
there's
they invite me for? Can we get
yeah,
me an
absolutely.
invitation? Yeah.
He bought a really big house, so there's plenty of room for anybody to come visit. And then investment too. You could, especially first-time buyers, you're buying your first house. You may stay in it 5, 6 years, build up some equity, and decide you're going to move up to something bigger and keep your house and do a rental, and then continue to do a rental, and that gives you some nice passive income. And it's a nice thing to have, in addition to your regular income, and that too can help with your retirement strategy. So, buying property in 2023 is spot on, and it will continue to be spot on. And those are really some 5 good reasons why to do that.
Yeah. We like to talk about 2 aspects of the house, because the house is your home. It represents stability. It represents, it's your nest. It's where you live. And particularly, as you said, somebody with pets, owning your own home means you have control. If you want to design, you can design to your specifications. You're not restricted. And a home, and then a house is also a monetary sink. It's a place where you can store your money and where your money grows. And so I agree with you. I think 2023 is a great time to buy a home. MJ, is this a good time to sell your home right now?
Why is this a fantastic time to sell? There's many reasons. If you're someone who's purchased your home 5 or 6 years ago, you've experienced incredible appreciation. And it's like a bank account. And that money is there for you to focus on your next goals and dreams, whatever they may be. A lot of people are selling right now because they are cashing in. They're using those funds to downsize. I have a client right now who can't retire unless she downsizes her house. So she really wants to do that. I've got somebody else who wants to take that equity and finish paying off their kids' education and go into something smaller. And then I just had a client go and take some equity out to buy a second home. So, those are really good reasons why you might want to sell and get some equity and do some different things. And as your life progresses and as you're looking down the road at your options.
Mm. So what I'm hearing is that there's two kinds of home sellers. There's those that gotta sell, people that have to sell because of life circumstances. They maybe they're in a 3-level house and now they need to be on 1 level, or they need to downsize their expenses, or maybe they need to buy a bigger home because their kids are growing or their family is growing and now they need more space. So there's the people who gotta sell, and then there's the people who want to sell because it fits into their career goals, their life goals, etc. What advice would you give someone? I'm sorry to cut you.
No. So if you're thinking about selling, these are some of the things that you want to think about before you take the plunge. Number one, if you've been in your house a long time, probably want to get a home pre-inspected. 20 years, 30 years, you've been there. Many of our clients have been there that long. They sometimes don't know what might be lurking. So a pre-inspection is always really, really good advice. Number two, have a professional stager or designer come in just to give you some consulting as to how your house looks right now in the marketplace. Whether you need to do some painting, some rearranging, some decluttering, giving you some ideas to try to get your house up to showing status. In the old days before HGTV, you could just put your house on the market and it would sell. Buyers had very little expectation. Now, with the advent of all the home flippers, HGTV, do this, do that, buyers do have an expectation. And so you want to be competitive just like your other listings out there. So have some staging and consulting work done.
And that's great because the way your house looks will really impact your sale price, right? So curb appeal, right? If the front of your house isn't attractive, that's going to make a huge difference. And someone like yourself bringing an unbiased look will say, hey, we could just trim these bushes or do these 3 things to make the curb appeal better. And then, as you said, the inside of the house, buyers, from my experience, want to be able to envision themselves in the house. They want to think about what the house would be look like if they lived in it. And so if it has all of your mementos, let's try that again. If it has all of your mementos, if it has too much furniture, it doesn't give you the opportunity to visualize what living in that house might be like.
Yeah, exactly. So staging certainly is important. And then, third, calling in the landscaper, as you said. And it may not have to be extensive. It's just maybe taking out some overgrown bushes or laying down some mulch, trimming some trees. Because curb appeal is really important, and that's going to be the first time that your house gets exposed to somebody. They're going to drive by, they're going to see it online, and then they're going to go take a drive by the neighborhood. So having those things in order prior to listing are 3 of my top recommendations.
Let's go back there. You didn't list 3, you listed 2. So we've got to That you did
Pre-inspection,
and
staging, and
staging.
landscaping.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't listen. I didn't understand what you were saying because
Yeah.
I would have expected you to do something about. Okay, so Erin, I'm sorry for stepping on this. We're back with three things, and if I were going to sell my home tomorrow, why would I want to call you in when I could, after all, I could just put it up on, I could put it up myself. I could put a sign in my front yard.
Sure.
Why would I want an expert like you?
Well, in today's market, it is very challenging to sell your house. Despite what you see and what you read, you think it's very easy, and that's quite the contrary. First of all, you really need a professional to guide you for pricing. You need a professional to come in and do a market study on your property, compare it to other properties, and give you some hard facts, what the price per square foot in your neighborhood's going. How does your house compare to other ones that have sold? How do the interiors compare? How does the exterior, the landscaping compare? So an agent is very instrumental in helping you price the house, number one, for market. Number two, negotiating. Many people think they can negotiate for themselves, and maybe you can negotiate for a bar of soap, but you can't negotiate for a house. It's really difficult, especially, obviously your own house. You can tend to get emotional. You don't think business like, and an agent is that barrier. You are paying them to be your representative, to try to get you the most money under the best terms and conditions with the least hassle for you. So you want to hire a skilled negotiator, someone who's done a lot of transactions, been through a lot of pitfalls. And that's the other thing too. There are a lot of pitfalls in the real estate transaction. I always say obtaining the buyer is 10% of the transaction. Getting it to the finish line is really 90%. And there are so many things that can go wrong that an untrained person or lay person could not navigate. And that's what we do. We navigate home inspection issues. We navigate appraisal shortages or problems. We navigate any type of mortgage problems, trying to get verifications and helping buyers get the documentation so that they can get their clear to close. We provide vendors to help you fix things in your house that might be required by the bank. And we can pick up the phone and call our vendor and they'll pick up and they'll say, hello, what do you need? Whereas you as the consumer try to find a vendor to come on short notice, it's almost impossible. We hire these guys, we hire them and use them all year long. We pay them very well on time. And so they're here for you. Whereas a consumer can't get that kind of service. So those really are the crucial aspects of why a realtor is necessary for you to successfully sell your house for the highest amount with the least hassle.
Yeah. What I understand, what I've seen in my career is that people who sell their home on their own, and let's face it, people do. But when a buyer walks in, he says, oh, there's no realtor here. They automatically cut their offer by 5%. And so, time and again, when you look at people who sell on their own versus people who sell with a great realtor, I think that the people who sell with a realtor end up making more money, as counterintuitive as it sounds.
Absolutely.
They end up paying the realtor, but the realtor, because of their ability to market the home, because of their ability to negotiate, because of their ability to eliminate last minute problems, I think 9 times out of 10, if not more, the seller with the realtor is going to do better than the seller who elects to do it on their own.
It is. It's statistically proven that those that use real estate professionals do end up with more money. And one of the things that we're really good at is looking at multiple offers and negotiating the best deal. If you're a layperson, you don't know, you don't know the different lenders, you don't know how they operate, you don't know the agents, you don't know their track record, you don't know whether a 5% down is better than an all cash offer. There's so many nuances about the transactions these days, and they're all so different. How are you supposed to pick one without having good working knowledge? And that's what we do. When the multiple buyer situation is still in play, we may not have 10 offers, but maybe we have 3. But you still have to evaluate those 3 and what are the best points and what could go wrong. I think a lot of folks don't know what could go wrong because they just don't know. They haven't been in that situation where
Mm.
I've sold over 2,000 pieces of property, and I don't know everything that's gone wrong, but I know the majority of what can go wrong. And you can see that selling real estate, just like lending, you're looking down the road. It's not just what's here today, here and now. It's what's happening down the road for you. And that's what we were visionaries, and that's the way we're able to successfully do what we do.
Hmm. This has been an amazing conversation, MJ. And again, we've been privileged to be on this podcast with MJ Agostini, a great realtor out of Connecticut, and really my go-to Connecticut realtor. You're either looking to buy or sell a home in Connecticut, MJ is my first stop. So thank you so much for joining us, and this has been a lot of fun.
It's a pleasure, Dave, as always, and we'll see you next time.